Hello and welcome to a channel information video. So I'm doing this video really for the benefit of anybody that's new to the channel, but also for anybody that maybe has been a long-term viewer but isn't quite so aware of some of the older content. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you're falling into the second category, you might notice going forward that I'm going to be starting to do a lot of throwback material. So I'm going to start to do videos which include things like pre-cons or cards from my collection. And so what I'll be doing is, where that's the case and maybe I actually opened that stuff on channel, I'm going to be including links to there, but I just wanted to make sure ahead of time, if people weren't aware of certain playlists that I've already created, it's a great way to explore the content of the channel because there's a lot of stuff on here. So hence this video. I'm going to be placing this particular video in the slot here, so if anybody comes to my channel and clicks in through the channel, this is the first video that plays. At the moment it's my Land Ahoy video, but I'm going to put in this information video instead to give everybody a bit of an orientation of the channel, because there is a lot of content on here now. Just as a side note here, if anybody's curious, the banner up here, where this is from, is a place about, I think, an hour walk, about an hour's walk from where I live in Nova Scotia. It's a place called Visted Lake, if you're curious. It was taken from this area here, just across from the public car park, and sort of looking out over the lake there. You can get some lovely photos there at certain times of the day. And then here is basically the coast of Nova Scotia over here. So that's where that comes from. Long-term viewers of the channel will probably remember when I had a different banner up here. The other banner was actually a photograph. I couldn't find it for this episode, for this video, but it's actually a photograph of a place that used to be the Shelley Arms. So this was a place in Nutley that I used to visit in my 20s and into my 30s, I suppose, for live gigs. And there was a pub here. It had been I suppose originally a coach house back in the day, but when I used to go to it, they used to have bands here. And then I can't remember when it was. I suppose it must have been sometime in the 2000s, I suppose. It actually changed to just being a regular property. It wasn't a pub anymore. And it used to be a car park out the back, actually, and none of these houses were here. So at the point they built all of these houses, this stopped being a pub. And I found some interesting photographs, actually. So this was that from 1950, Shelley Arms in Nutley. There's other Shelley Arms in the UK. It's a popular name for a pub. And you can see here from back in the day. And at some point, I remember Zig Zig Sputnik playing in there, actually, as well. Yeah, I've seen lots of bands on their ascendancy and lots of bands on their descendancy as well. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up on the channel because I'm sure some people are curious about the current photograph, which is Bisset Lake, and the previous photograph, which was the Shelley Arms. So just a little bit about how I've tried to make life a little bit easier for you on the channel. So one thing I wanted to make everybody aware of, because I know there's been some requests for me to go through my Magic the Gathering collection, which I will be doing in the future. And obviously I'm revisiting old decks as well, old precons. But there was a whole load of what I called them nostalgia time. So these were packs from around the time of Champions of Kamigawa through, got 9th edition, Guildpact Dissension, Cold Snap, Plane of Chaos. They didn't get quite as many views as I expected, and the videos are either, was it 5 booster packs or a tournament pack and a couple of boosters. I think that's what I did with this, of basically old stuff. So yeah, if you like, you know, cracking packs or seeing people crack packs, there's quite a number of these that I did, and that's in a nice playlist which I will include in this video. Obviously with the older videos, the quality on this is not as good as the newer videos, and there's various reasons for that. The software that I used to use to transfer over from my camera, used to, in the process of transferring it and splicing everything together, used to downgrade it from 1080 to 720. I've since, what I do now is I just grab the files directly off the camera and splice them together in DOS actually, and that gives me like full 1080. So that's super handy. But you're saying that, you know, it's the rules text is pretty clear still, because it's a reasonably good camera. It's just at 720, that's all for a lot of these. Another useful playlist is a playlist of Commander unboxings. It's interesting, I don't seem to have every single Commander product that I opened where I've done unboxings for. I think because for the early ones I didn't buy them together. I think I just picked them up as I was going along. So a bit random. Whereas going forward from 2013, I was buying them, you know, as a group, 4 or 5 at a time. But what I will be doing is I will be revisiting these decks, and we'll be doing like up close artwork appreciation at 1080p. So that's something to look forward to, but in those videos where I can, I'll be including references to the original unboxings. The other thing as well, and some of these go back to 11 years ago, is I've got what were originally fat packs which became bundles. I have unboxings of those as well, and these, the quality of them is quite different. These early ones, although they were shot at 720, were on a lower quality camera at the time, and so some of these it is quite difficult to determine the rules text, which is why I, you know, was reading out the rules text a lot of the time. There was a reason for that. And you know, as we move through to more recent years, if you can call 9 years recent, then you know, the quality of my camera improved. These are still at 720 probably, but yeah, the slightly better quality camera, and so the text was a lot clearer. Obviously, anybody that, you know, uploads to YouTube will know you do lose something in the compression as well once it's been uploaded. Some of these later ones may well be in full 1080, but again, just something, if you're not familiar with the channel, everything that's on here, I've got all these really handy playlists for pretty much everything of any note where I did multiple videos. So that's the first half of this video. Second half, and I will be doing a series of videos about this, but I just wanted to give a bit of a taster here. as you probably gathered from watching the channel, I love Scryfall. And in addition to finding out like new and ingenious ways of doing certain searches and the things that come up, it's quite fun to just sit here and play around with different combinations of searches. So I picked some fairly simple ones, the sort of things that I just like to fiddle around with when I'm not recording videos where I'm using Scryfall. So one of my favourite things over the years, and this predates Scryfall, was to play around with colour identity versus the colour number of colours in the casting cost. So on Scryfall you have the colour, let's call it the colour tag, and then you have the ID tag. And so what I've done here, and this used to be a favourite of mine to do predating Scryfall actually, was to work out, okay, what legendary creatures are there where they're a single colour in the casting cost, but the colour identity is 5 colour, because they've got additional colours within the rules text for activation costs and various other things. You can see here we've got a flip card where it's 5 colour on the other side. And so there's basically 11 cards that fall into that category where they're a single colour in the casting cost, and but their colour identity is 5 colour. And of course you can do all sorts of interesting combinations as well. So if we do just with let's make them the same for see what 4 colour stuff we have. So if you remember a lot of these here, if we go in, just to remind myself, were from the Commander 2016 product. Because prior to this, the only thing that fell into that category were the Nephilims. So yeah, interesting to see at what point in Magic's history they actually introduced cards which had a 4 colour identity and were legendary creatures. So you could actually play them as a commander, unless you were playing, because I know some people were playing these as commanders as well. But yeah, that's always a favourite of mine, is to go through, sometimes with creature types or card types, and play around with the casting cost colour versus the colour identity, and just see what sort of interesting cards you come up with. Another thing is the whole budget thing. What I do quite a bit on Scryfall, just as an exercise, is pick a set, put it in EDH Rec ranking order, and then just see all the cards that are below $1, and just get them in order of EDH Rec ranking. You can also put them in order of price as well. That's quite interesting to see within any set. If you're concerned about budget, but you want to know, okay, what are the EDH Rec All Stars, that are less than 50 cents. So it's always again, another interesting thing to play around with. Another one that this sort of for me predates Scryfall, but before there was Scryfall, was I always loved to look at sets and see how the CMC played off against, say, the power or toughness. In this case, of course, it's creatures. And if you had, say, a card that was a casting cost of 3 but the power was only 1, why was that? What were you getting? What additional ETBs maybe, or spell-like properties, or maybe it was something like some strange wall type thing, or are you getting a lot more toughness versus power? And then just seeing at what point in a set, say, or even in Magic's history, so you can keep cranking up the CMC, take out the set. I'm just doing this here for Tempest. I just wanted to pick an early set for this, and see what you get. What are you getting for your casting cost? So if you've got 6 CMC creature with a power 1, why is that? And all this sort of stuff fascinates me, like slicing and dicing through here. And also another interesting thing is then when you do it on any set, it sometimes will throw up certain sets where there might be certain themes that you might be interested in. Like you might have forgotten that, okay, so we've got this sunburst mechanic. So it's a 1/1 for 6, but based on the number of colours of mana that you've used to pay for it, it adds these additional +1/+1 counters. So then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I need to take a look at if it's going to let me in. It's being naughty. Oh, there we go. Fifth Dawn. I was trying to remember. I knew it was one of the original Mirrodin sets from the Mirrodin block. So yeah, another thing I like to just durdle around with is CMC versus power or toughness in here. And you can see I've netted out the land. That's just basically because if I do stuff like this, actually it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't make any difference in this case. But sometimes I might be taking out the power and then it would make a difference. So here obviously it wouldn't make a difference to net the land off. Seem to have a bit of a slow connection today. There we go. So all the 0 casting cost cards which have a power of 1, but I could have done that for toughness. And then this came up in another video, and this is this whole thing of throughout Magic's history, sometimes they sort of change the balance of certain types of cards in certain registry, certain rarities. And so I get really curious about, I love a lot of old school artifacts. So I'm always curious as, like pre-1999 or so, we say pre-2000s in Magic. What sort of artifacts were there printed at common? In here, and you get all these nice, lovely artifacts with the old school artwork at common. In there. And a lot of the time here, I'm really just more interested in the artwork than I am just necessarily the power of the card. But I know this came up, I think, the other week. I might have been talking about the old school Ornithopter artwork as well. And then it's interesting to see like Mind Stone in the old artwork frame. And a lot of this you just stumble across by, trying out these different slices in Scryfall. And that's obviously very interesting, I think, with artifacts quite a bit. But you can also play around with other things. Like you get these one-off types for sets. Like we have recently had, sagas. So if we look at sagas across all of Magic's history, we don't restrict this. What rarities have they appeared at? So if we do, and in what sets? So we've got quite a few at uncommon, and that gives you, sort of idea with those sets as well, is what sort of impression were they trying to give to people with a certain theme or a keyword, a keyword or a type, in terms of the importance of that theme or mechanic or whatever. So if I look at the oracle text, and I'm trying to think of something similar to poison. Was it? It was wither. We got wither. So wither, I think, from what I remember, predates mythic. So it's unlikely you're going to find that. So we have 8 wither cards at rare. At rare. And you can get an idea. One thing you can do that helps you out a bit, actually, I always forget to do this, is to do, all the prints as well, if you want to see all the sets that were there. It's easy to forget to do that. Sometimes for convenience, I just do a single card. It will just show you the most recent one, obviously, in Scryfall. They've got 11 cards that are uncommon with wither, and you can sort of see here, what set this was from originally. You got Shadowmoor period, and what was the one along that Eventide? That was it. Oh, that's there because it's got withering in there, so that's one thing you have to be a little bit careful of. I don't know if you can still do whether this works. Let me just see if I can do this. No, it doesn't make any difference. The trick is, I believe, nope, that doesn't work either. But sometimes you can do that if you put space in. It's not going to do it here. Actually, saying that, if I do this, I believe it will do it. Let's try it. Yeah. Now, it may have screened some things out there. So what was in there that shouldn't have been? We had Withering Wisp and Withering Hex. But the nice thing as well with Scryfall is over time you work out various sort of hacks to screen out stuff, or you just choose to ignore it. And then while we're on the subject of Oracle text, there's an interesting series of tags on here. And if I do O tag and then the word cycle, now these tags have been entered in manually on the database, so it's really dependent on how up to date they are for certain certain sets. So if we were to do, I don't know, set equals M19. There we go. So 88 cards within M19 have been tagged as being cycles of some description. Now these might be specific cycles, and if you go down to the O tag, Scryfall tagger, you can see here it might reference a specific cycle. And sometimes when I'm doing the set musings, this is sometimes how I'll display some of the cycles. Not all the time, because I quite like doing doing it sort of long form, just trying different queries. But you can do that. But again, you have to know it. That's the trouble. But cycle should, he says, show all of the cycles within either the whole of magic or a certain set. Oops. And again, some of these might be partial cycles as well. They might not be full cycles. And you may not find all of these cycles if you look at the cycles on MTG Wiki, because these might be mega cycles or another cycle that necessarily isn't defined or that well known on there. But yeah, cycles are another fun thing to play around with in here. And of course, don't forget, something I'd completely forgotten about the other day is all of the, so you've got magic sets on here, you've got all the a lot of product, like the commander product is treated like a set, so you can also do stuff like that. So yeah, very useful. Hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, I'll be doing other much more in-depth episodes rather than these fairly sort of basic searches, but I thought that might just act as a bit of a teaser to what's coming up. But also, it is quite fun, I think, to just sit with a card searcher and just play around with different criteria and just see it's amazing what you can uncover and come up that you've forgotten about. And also, hopefully this episode or this video was helpful to anybody new to the channel or isn't familiar with some of the older stuff, and just reminds people about the presence of the playlists. And where I can, what I try and do is I always include links to those playlists where it's relevant in any videos that I do, which feature like legacy items that I'm revisiting. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next video.